Weezer has been involved in many lawsuits. As frontman Rivers Cuomo would tell Spin magazine, every time we release an album it happens. They were sued by the Pinkertons for trademark infringement, Mikey Welsh for wrongful termination, their former management for wrongful termination, and Al Molinaro for insulting his fish. But this time was different. This time, the fish insulted them. You know, sometimes I get lost in metaphor. Former Weezer bassist Matt Sharp has filed a lawsuit against the band over songwriting ownership. The suit, filed April 18th, charges his former bandmates with breach of fiduciary duty, legal malpractice, and dissolution of partnership, declaratory relief, and accounting under the Copyright Act. Needless to say, this was the big one. And it was a long time coming. After helping start Weezer in 1992, Matt Sharp left the band in high spirits 6 years later. His side project The Rentals had a moderately successful single in 1995, but it's since grown to be a sharp pain in Sharp's ass. Without getting too caught up in the details, Matt was simultaneously dealing with some assholes who wouldn't give up the tapes he'd recorded at their studio, and an impending European tour with his band, when Rivers came knocking and asked him to play bass on another Weezer project. I mean, would you have said yes? Publicly, he spoke very positively of the band after his exit, even telling fans that you should know that this was not a tension-filled feud or an ego-driven breakup. Only a few weeks after the decision was made, Rivers and I went to work on producing his song American Girls, for one of the best films in the history of cinema, right up there with Mighty Ducks 3 in 3D. Out of this experience came the idea of pursuing a song I asked Rivers to help me co-write for the upcoming Rentals CD. Well, he did, and believe it or not, it was the first time we have ever really written anything together. The song is called My Head Is in the Sun. It was the last song completed for the new record, and in many ways, my favorite. Aw, how sweet. Never mind. Things were apparently a little more complicated than they seemed. For one thing, Sharp never technically left Weezer. It's kind of strange to put it so simply, but he was still legally a member of the band up until at least the year 2000, when drummer Pat Wilson told the Michigan Daily News that it wasn't technically a split. I think Matt's still technically in the band. It's a classic case of he said we fired him and we said he quit. Unless we want to litigate, we're gonna have to settle, and no one wants to litigate. Although, I think we'd win. We have more money. That's what it comes down to. Hire a big-time litigator. Whatever, it's bullshit. But Rivers didn't think they needed to get any lawyers involved. Matt was his friend, so he shot him an email in April of 2001, a month before the release of Weezer's comeback album, saying, "Looks like we're gonna start making money again, so we, you and I, had better get things squared away sooner rather than later so the money flows to all the right places without getting hitched up." Sharp saw things differently, however, as he tried to use this very email as evidence that he had secretly helped write some of Weezer's biggest songs, including Undone off their first album and most of Pinkerton, their second album. If true, this would mean he was owed quite a bit of money. And yet, believe it or not, it was the first time we have ever really written anything together. The case was settled out of court. I'm not calling Matt a liar. It's not my place to do that, but he did complain publicly about a lack of input on Pinkerton in the 90s, and the credits were never changed on any album re-releases, so I lean more towards Weezer's story on this one. One thing is certain, though, nobody left that courthouse happy, with the vague quotes given later implying that Cuomo saw the beginning of a legal battle as the end of their friendship, while Sharp saw the settlement as too little, too late. The one thing that people have to know about my time with those guys is that while we were working on those records and doing those tours, my head and my heart and my soul were completely invested in the music we made. And I think people understand that, especially people who got to see us perform and be with us. I think they understand how important that time was, as important as rock can be. And that's part of the reason I don't like to talk about it too much. Because I don't want to start talking about the negative things and sling mud on a time that has so many great memories for all of us. From here, Matt would recede from the limelight, continuing to write and occasionally perform music, though no longer under the Rentals name. Meanwhile, over in Weezerville, things were getting a little messy. Blind confidence after the band's smash hit third album inspired the band to rush into a fourth just weeks later, as Rivers grew more controlling and vain. I try to give myself complete license to do whatever I want at any time, regardless of how it affects other people, and I think the benefit I gain artistically from living like that outweighed the costs of, all the problems I have with society. Occasionally, I'll have pangs of conscience, but I try to overcome them. To me, that's a small price to pay. The idea was that since he'd been a bit of a diva during the production of the Green Album and it was such a huge hit, mimicking and intensifying that behavior would lead to greater and greater success. The band had already started pre-production on their 5th album when Maladroit released in 2002 and failed commercially, eventually triggering a crisis in the band's frontman that culminated in a bit of advice from friend and producer Rick Rubin: meditation. And after a few months, and a total shakeup of his lifestyle overall, Cuomo saw the error of his ways. I had so much pent-up emotion that I started crying, and I was feeling so sorry for being so self-centered in my life. Trust me, this all feels a lot more justified if it's explained over the course of an hour, but all you need to know is that Rivers had a lot of regrets, and he soon started reaching out to people he'd hurt in the past and apologizing. This brings us back to Matt Sharp. On February 12, 2004, the now seasoned solo artist stepped on stage for a hardly publicized bar gig at Cal State Fullerton. After wrapping up the 6th song on the evening's set, he leaned into the microphone and shocked the crowd with a soft introduction to one Rivers Cuomo. I realized recently that there was a person I ran into at an art opening downtown in LA, an old friend of mine from a long time ago, and we hadn't seen each other in years and years. I hadn't been the greatest person to him, and if anybody in the world had reason to be angry with me, it was him. But he was really happy to see me, and incredibly open, and we've since become quite good friends again. That changed my mind about being close-minded with those kinds of relationships, and I think that it was him being open to me that let me be sort of open to Rivers when he came and said we needed to talk, asking if there was some way we could be involved with each other's lives, musically, and just in general again. Together, he and Cuomo would play Mrs. Young, an old Blue Album-era demo Rivers helped Matt write, and The Time Song, a brand new collab by the two of them that you can actually still find online. It sounds pretty cool. They wrapped up the performance with a soft rendition of Say It Ain't So, but before they could walk off stage, the crowd demanded an encore. And now, this is where the timeline splits. If the night really had ended with Say It Ain't So, fans would probably still look back at this performance fondly. The honest-to-God last time Matt and Rivers shared a stage, bookended by a heartfelt duet of one of Weezer's best songs. But because of that damn encore, this night is now remembered for something totally different. I don't really know how to say this, but Matt said the N-word. Yeah, they were playing Undone, the Sweater song, and during the opening bit, when the band typically used to improvise random bullshit, Sharp started rapping Picture Me Rollin' by Tupac Shakur. And,
Picture me rolling in my 510. I got the love for you.
He let one slip. So maybe that's why he wanted a writing credit on the song. Anyway, if you want to learn more about Cuomo's spiritual awakening and how Beverly Hills is Weezer's first rap song, check out my Nebula page and subscribe. Bye!